Am I good to go? Hopefully. I'd like to welcome everyone today to the right-of-way track, acquiring right-of-way during COVID-19, how to meet your project schedule. My name is Jessica Gribna from QK4, and I want to thank you for joining. As we get started, I'd like to introduce the presenters for this session. Wade Abbott, Larry Graves, Jennifer Folson, and Derrick Young.
All right, thanks, Jessica, for that introduction. Good afternoon and welcome to our presentation. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy out there. Our presentation today will be of a pre-recorded video that we will start shortly. During this video, we encourage that all of our viewers submit questions using the chat button at the corner of the video screen and in the Q&A tab. Once our video has ended, our staff will be available to answer any questions that you have been submitted. With that being said, we hope that you enjoy our presentation.
Good afternoon. Before we begin our presentation, I'd like to take a moment of silence to remember Tom Kearns, who was a member of Right-of-Way for so many years, a mentor to many, but most of all a friend. Thank you for your moment of silence. And now Derrick Young will begin our presentation.
This is Derrick Young, Right-of-Way Manager for Lochner's Lexington office. Today's presentation, we just kind of want to go over COVID-19 and some approaches that we've taken in order to acquire right-of-way and meet project schedule. But before we start our presentation, I would like to introduce our staff that has helped me come up with this presentation.
Now to introduce you to Lochner's right-of-way staff. Down in the right bottom corner, we have Jennifer Folson. Jennifer has worked in the right-of-way profession for over 25 years, with 20 of those years working with the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. During those 20 years, Jennifer worked mostly with the District 7 office, handling some negotiations, but mainly focusing on relocation assistance. In 2013, she became a right-of-way program specialist in the relocation branch at KYTC's central office, where she reviewed and approved relocation packets for several districts across the state. Jennifer joined Lochner in October of 2015. Since joining Lochner, Jennifer has been the lead relocation assistant agent, but has also acquired many parcels. Next up, in the top right corner, we have Larry Graves. Larry is a seasoned employee in the transportation business with 31 years with the KYTC Bridge Design Office. Larry retired from the KYTC in 2006 and joined Lochner. Larry has been a key member of Lochner's right-of-way staff since 2011, where he has been a project manager, lead acquisition agent, and relocation agent on many KYTC and LPA projects throughout the state. Last but not least, on the left side of your screen, we have Wade Abbott. Wade is a right-of-way specialist with Lochner and has also been a member of Lochner's structural engineering team since 1986. Wade joined Lochner's right-of-way department in 2011 and added right-of-way acquisition services to his capabilities. Over the years, Wade has become a solid right-of-way specialist with Lochner's right-of-way team by handling complex acquisitions and assisting with several relocations. Wade is also a certified RWA by the International Right-of-Way Association. So the title of our presentation is Acquire Right-of-Way During COVID-19 and How to Meet Your Project Schedule.
During the presentation, please refer all questions to the Q&A tab on the Big Marker app. After the presentation, we will also have a live question and answer session.
Some topics that we would like to discuss during our presentation are: what issues have we encountered? I know several of you all have encountered issues during this pandemic, maybe dealing with a property owner or something else, but we would like to go over some of the issues that we have faced during either negotiations or relocations. CDC guidelines. We'd like to go over CDC guidelines and how to prevent the spread of the virus. We'd also like to go over some procedures that we've implemented during this pandemic in order to acquire right-of-way and to assist our relocatees during the relocation process. And then finally, how does COVID-19 affect the way we acquire right-of-way in the future? Of course, we can't predict the future, but we can use some of the tools that we have gained and some of the knowledge that we have used currently during this pandemic in order to acquire right-of-way in the future. So some of the issues that you may encounter during this COVID-19 pandemic when trying to acquire right-of-way or trying to relocate a displacee are: you may be dealing with someone that's more susceptible to getting the virus, like someone that may be elderly or has prior health issues. So in this particular instance, it may not be safe to meet with these property owners. Also, during these times, some property owners refuse to meet face-to-face. They're afraid of what may come from this COVID-19 and they're afraid of catching it. One issue that we've experienced with relocation is when trying to find a replacement house for a residential location, some homes may not be available to view because the sellers are afraid that their home will be contaminated. So they don't want buyers coming in and viewing their home, touching their furniture, and worry that they may somehow contract the virus. And last but not least, most of the time, property owners don't want to deal with the eminent domain anyway. So they may use COVID-19 as a reason for delaying negotiations or delaying the inevitable, which is condemnation. So you've probably seen this diagram before, probably either posted in a restaurant, a store, or maybe even your office. This is the CDC guidelines of how to stop the spread of the COVID-19 virus and the spread of germs. A few steps in order to accomplish that is stay 6 feet apart, which is about 2 arms length from each other. Secondly, wear some kind of mask or face covering over your nose and mouth. Thirdly, cover your cough or sneeze with a tissue. Then throw your tissue in the trash and wash your hands. Also, make sure to clean, disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces. This includes items that are located in your common areas of your offices, which may be copiers, printers, or anything that may be used by someone else in your office. And lastly, stay home if you're sick. If you've been exposed to someone that has the virus, then quarantine yourself for 14 days just in order to be safe. So now let's go over some procedures to follow to acquire right-of-way during COVID-19. So if you're having an in-person meeting with a property owner or client, make sure that person is comfortable with the in-person meeting. You don't want to put them in a situation that they feel uncomfortable or unsafe. If the person does feel uncomfortable with meeting in person, there are other options that we will go over later in the presentation. If the person is comfortable with meeting in person, then make sure to follow the CDC guidelines. This would include wearing a mask, staying 6 feet apart from one another, or other procedures that will make them feel safe as well as yourself. You may even want to go beyond what the CDC guidelines suggest. You may want to wear gloves when you're meeting, because you may be handling documentation that both of you all need to sign or look at. Another suggestion would be to bring disposable pens to the meeting. Allow the property owner to have their own pen. Dispose of the pen once it's been used. That way, if there are any germs, they can't be passed along. And lastly, if you do meet in person and you had the opportunity to meet outside, then why not meet outside? It's less likely for the virus to be spread outside than it is indoors. Well, here's a short clip of the procedures that we use when we're meeting with property owners in our office. As you can see, Jennifer is wearing her gloves in this video as she is taking each temperature for each property owner, as well as going ahead and recording each temperature and the date and time of which each property owner has come into the office. This allows us to keep track of our visitors and reassures that we use all safety measures when dealing with the public. When meeting indoors, as you can see, Jennifer is still wearing her gloves, providing the property owners with their own copies of the plans and documents, as well as providing them with their own pens. Taking these kind of approaches will eliminate any kind of cross-contamination. Once documents are signed, Jennifer puts them in an envelope to be kept in isolation for 48 hours. While having these meetings, she is also following the CDC guidelines and wearing masks and staying 6 feet apart if possible. Here is a short video clip of how to properly meet with property owners outside. As you can see in this video, Jennifer is meeting with a husband and a wife that have requested staking on their property. As she's going over the proposed right-of-way, you can tell that she is keeping her distance at least 6 feet apart and also wearing masks for safety of others. As you can also tell, Jennifer has provided the property owners with their own set of plan sheets in order for them to keep a safe distance. So if the person does not feel comfortable meeting in person, there are some alternatives. Don't let this be the end of the road. Don't let them use this as an excuse not to acquire the right-of-way that you need for the project. So one of the more common alternatives is provide information through mail or email. I mean, some of you all are already doing this already, but especially during this time, the property owners may feel more comfortable in handling information negotiations through email and mail. And once the property owners receive the information, then you can discuss the proposed acquisition and any issues that they may have over the phone. Luckily, in this day and age, we have technology at our fingertips. And some of the technology outlets that are available to us today would include video conferencing. You have several different video conferencing applications or platforms. You have Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Google Chat, or FaceTime. This allows you and the property owner to see each other face to face and build that bond and that relationship that you need sometimes when negotiating and trying to acquire right-of-way. So what happens when negotiations are completed and you're ready to sign documents and the property owners don't have a notary to rely on and they need your help? Well, luckily, Kentucky is an e-notary state, which means and you're able to notarize electronically. There are several apps out there that have this kind of service. DocuSign is probably one of the main applications that does electronic notarizations, but there are several others as well. Another option that we've been using is during a video conference, we'll ask the property owners to verify their identification with an ID, a driver's license, and provide us with a copy of that. And then we watch them actually sign the documents while we're having that video conference meeting. This clip shows an example of how we use Teams on a follow-up meeting. In this particular circumstance, the property owners came to the office, met with Larry, who was the acquisition agent, and then had questions for our relocation agent who was working remotely. We were able to use Teams in order to get a face-to-face interaction with the property owners and allow them to convey their concerns and obtain information while still building that face-to-face relationship. We still feel that it's important to build a face-to-face relationship in order to build trust and communicate with the property owners and make sure that their needs are fulfilled. This format allowed us to do so in a safe manner and in return still built trust with the property owners, and at the end of this meeting the property owners came to an agreement and signed the documents knowing there was a complete understanding of the proposed acquisition.
Procedures for relocation services during COVID-19. Again, follow CDC guidelines when viewing a comparable home or replacement home. I know as relocation agents, we've faced some challenges during this COVID-19 in getting into these comparable homes or replacement homes to do DS&S inspections. But when we are able to get into these homes, we need to follow CDC guidelines. We need to make sure we're wearing our masks and we're staying 6 feet apart. If the seller will not allow buyers to enter, then there may be other options to view the home to determine if it meets decent, safe, and sanitary inspections. I know dealing with some realtors, property owners are not comfortable with us coming into the house. So the realtors have offered virtual tours of these comparable and replacement homes, as well as giving us a copy of the seller's disclosure. Here you have Wade doing a DS&S inspection on a replacement home. He's looking at the outside of the house, taking pictures of the front of the house, as well as each side of the house and the back of the house. And now he moved inside the house, inspecting each room, taking pictures of each room, inspecting the bathroom, making sure there's privacy for users. The sink is fully functional with cold water as well as hot water, and that the toilet is functional and flushes. And now he moved into the family room, looking at the egress, just inspecting the room, checking out the fireplace. Making sure that the lights work, looking at the ceiling, moving to the kitchen, making sure the sink has cold and hot water. There's a stove. As well as a functional refrigerator. He's inspecting the dining room, checking out the lights again. Looking at the ingress. And now we head up the stairs to the bedrooms and the bathroom. Making sure the sink is functional with cold water as well as hot water. And that the heat is thermostatically controlled and set to 70. And looking at the egress. So Wade was able to do this DS&S inspection on this replacement house. The house was empty, so it was pretty easy to get into and to be able to walk through and do our DS&S inspection. As relocation agents, we have run into the issue of not being able to get into some houses that are occupied to do our DS&S inspections. We have found that property owners of houses that are occupied are not willing to allow us to walk through their house to conduct our DS&S inspections during COVID-19. However, in working with the realtors and those property owners, they have allowed the realtor to do a virtual tour with us. As you see in this video clip, the realtor is doing a virtual tour with us. She's walked around the outside of the house, walked inside the house in every room, allowing us to see inside the house as if we were there. Although this is not the norm, this has helped tremendously when we cannot get into the houses. The realtor has also provided us with a seller's disclosure, and we also encourage the property owner to have a home inspection done also.
So how does COVID-19 change the future of how we acquire right-of-way? You know, we think this has opened the door for more use of technology for sure. You know, every meeting that we have now is pretty much video conferencing. So I think video conferencing is just going to be the new norm. And I mean, it makes sense, right? You know, you're able to meet more efficiently. You can have more meetings this way. You don't have to schedule for travel time. So once one meeting is complete, boom, one click and you're into the next meeting. So this allows several meetings in one day. Whereas before you may have had to travel 4 hours, we're able to schedule only 2 meetings and that was your day. Now you can schedule 5 meetings just from sitting in your office or even sitting at the workstation that you've set up at your home. Now I know most of you are all thinking, yeah, video conferencing isn't as effective as a face-to-face meeting, and I agree with you. It's not. But during these times, I mean, who knows how long this is going to last. But video conference allows you to put your face in front of theirs, and it allows you to build this relationship and trust that you need in order to sometimes reach an agreement. So if you recall the video clip that we showed you before with Larry meeting with the property owner using Microsoft Teams, you can use Microsoft Teams to present. By presenting your screen and showing them exactly what you're looking at. You can show them a plan sheet, zoom in, zoom out, show them where the property lines are, show them where the proposed right-of-way line is, where the temporary easement's located. You can also use KMZ files. You can zoom into those, zoom out, show them the aerials so that they understand exactly what is going on with the project and what you're actually needing to acquire. I know in my experience, I feel like actually just printing out a piece of paper and showing the property owner kind of limits me on how I can present this to them and how I can get them to understand what's going on with the project. And the video conferencing allows me to really zoom in and show them what I'm talking about, and I can use the mouse or the cursor, other tools to highlight areas to get information and my point across. Another tool that I think that is going to be pretty prevalent in the future that we can actually use right now, but a lot of us aren't, is 3D modeling. I know our office is already using a lot of 3D modeling with their design, but in right-of-way, I think this is going to be mind-blowing to property owners to see actually how their property is going to look after a project. And again, this goes hand in hand with video conferencing. We can use our screen, present what the 3D modeling is going to look like by playing a video or just clicking a link. They can also do this. We can provide them with a link. They can click on that link and see the 3D modeling of what the project's going to look like and what their property is going to look like after construction. So now let me show you a quick clip of what 3D modeling presentation would look like using a Teams meeting and possibly how a meeting with the property owner would look like.
This next clip shows the complete process of how we've gone through an entire acquisition process during COVID-19 following CDC guidelines. In this clip, Derrick is meeting with a property owner at the subject parcel. As you notice, they are both following CDC guidelines. They are staying 6 feet apart. They're both wearing masks, and Derrick has provided the property owner with his own set of plans. Derrick was able to walk the property with the property owner with the plan sheet showing him what changes are going to be made to the property after construction. He was able to show him the proposed right-of-way. He was able to show exactly where that temporary easement area is on the plan sheet. He was able to show him the proposed right-of-way. He was able to explain the temporary easement area to the property owner. And he was also able to explain the new ditch line and how the lay of the land will be after construction. We feel it's important to be able to build these relationships with the property owners, to be able to meet with them face to face, as long as the property owner is comfortable with us meeting face to face. We feel like this helps the relationship better. It helps them understand the process and to be able to visualize what changes are going to be made to their property. And we also feel like it establishes a sense of trust between the property owner and us, which we feel is very important through the entire acquisition process. In the next clip, Derrick is meeting with the property owner over Microsoft Teams. He's able to present the plan sheet to the property owner by sharing his screen. As you can see, he's going over the temporary easement. He's explaining the temporary easement area, and he's able to point and show exactly where that temporary easement area is on the plan sheet. He's also able to explain the fee simple area. He can show the property owner where it is. He can even zoom in on the screen to show specific parts of that fee simple area. He can answer any questions that the property owner has over the plan sheets. We're also able to present the cross sections to the property owner over Microsoft Teams too. This has really helped in negotiations, being able to talk with people over Microsoft Teams as if you're in a meeting with them face to face, and being able to present those plan sheets, those cross sections, just as you would if you were sitting across the table from the property owner. And in this other clip, Derrick is meeting with a property owner over Microsoft Teams with the KMZ file. A lot of property owners seem to feel like this is really easier to understand with the KMZ file, with the aerial view, because they can visualize their property. You can see Derrick is explaining the temporary easement. He's able to talk about what's going to happen with the driveway and the entrance being put back. He can show them exactly where the proposed right-of-way is going to go, where the road is going to go, where the center line is, according to their property. He can show them, where the pipe is going to go across the road and answer any questions they have. And we feel presenting this KMZ file, it helps them visualize the project and what's going to happen a little bit better by being able to see the aerial view. And then our final clip is 3D modeling. We can even present with Microsoft Teams to the property owner where it shows the property owner a 3D model of how their property will look after construction is completed. I think for a lot of property owners, it's hard to visualize what their property is going to look like after construction, even after going over plan sheets and even showing the KMZ file. I think it's still hard for them to visualize exactly what it's going to look like after construction. But with the 3D modeling that we're starting to get into, we can show them what the property is going to look like after construction is completed, what the lay of the land is going to look like, where the road is going to be, how far elevated the road is, or how much lower the road's going to be, what the ditches are going to look like, what the guardrail is going to look like. And I think this, going forward, will be a great tool in helping with the acquisition process. One tool we used during COVID-19 that wasn't shown on the clip was the use of the e-notary. Derrick was able to have his property owner sign the deed using an e-notary. He obtained a copy of the property owner's driver's license, and then during a video conference, the property owner placed his license next to the signature line and signed the deed, and then mailed the documents to Derrick, and Derrick was able to notarize the deed. This clip shows the whole process of the different options available to acquire right-of-way during COVID-19. Video conferencing is a major tool in meeting with property owners during COVID-19 when we weren't able to meet in person. Even though acquiring right-of-way during COVID-19 seemed to be a little bit challenging, we were still able to acquire right-of-way using all these options that we've mentioned.
So now that we've gone over some issues and some approaches that the Lochner team has used in order to acquire right-of-way during COVID-19, we want to know if you all have any questions, any comments. What have some of you all experienced during this time, and maybe some approaches that we haven't used? We'd like to hear from you all.
Now, if you have any questions or would like to share your experiences during COVID-19, please use the Q&A tab on the Big Marker app.
All right, we're going to get our panelists on now. Switch this over. Thanks for watching our presentation. I'm Tyler Mills, by the way. I'm a roadway engineer in the Lochner Lexington office. And we've got a couple questions here under the Q&A tab. And as our staff gets logged in here, I'll pitch those questions to them and we'll get some answers for you. So feel free, please, to keep submitting those questions in through the Q&A tab or chat if you're not seeing that tab for some reason. All right. Let's see, Larry, are you on here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
I can hear you, I just can't see you. All right, you want me to go ahead and start, Derrick?
Yeah, go ahead and start with the questions, Tyler.
Okay. All right, so the first question we got in here is, can a DS&S inspection on the replacement home be done virtually or by the realtor?
Tony Moore, that would be your call. But, you know, on the DS&S inspections, you know, if you have to get into the replacement house and you can't, the realtor can always do a virtual tour. I guess you could probably email her the DS&S form and have her walk you through it, doing the water and stuff, and suggest that the homeowners get a home inspection because the DS&S inspection is not a home inspection.
And we ran into that on another project that we worked on. You know,
and it was with another client.
Yeah, it was with another client, and the house that the displacee was wanting to purchase was actually occupied, and so they didn't feel comfortable with us actually entering the home, and so we had to use we used, I guess it was a video conferencing. We actually had the realtor walk through, check off every box on the DS&S inspection, just to make sure that it was DS&S.
All right. Yeah, so as we go through these, I'll hit publish so that everybody can see them. And I think afterwards we can also type up some kind of response. It'll be on the recording, or we can do a written response too, I believe. So next question. I got a question from Greg Combs. Is 3D modeling available to use now? And I mean, I guess I can start trying to answer that. As a roadway engineer, yes. Just depending on the contract or the project is, I guess, would be the official answer. For the design side, our office, we've used it quite a bit in our public involvement, and but we, I believe that comes down, and Derrick, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. I'm still more the production side, and when it comes to negotiations or contracts, I'm not as experienced yet. But I believe it comes down to that, just depending on who your project manager is and if there's money for it, or I guess kind of the size of the project too. Things are now to if the designer is designing in 3D already, or depending on how they're using microstation inroads, it can be a fairly simple, straightforward, efficient solution. So it kind of all depends on that's something you definitely wanted to talk about on the front end of your project. If you want to go that route, then it can really help save you some time and money later on if you go into the project on the very front end, knowing that you might want to do that or have that available. So I don't know if, Derrick, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, so we've used it with other clients. We're hoping that, we can start using this with KYTC. But again, as Tyler mentioned, it all depends on funding. That technology is available for us to use. So it's there. It's just whether or not the project manager, wants that, I guess, allows us to use that tool.
All right, next question. What is the process to obtain your electronic notary certificate?
So when this whole COVID pandemic started, several states, including Kentucky, allowed what they call remote online notary. And they actually started in Kentucky on March 30th. And with that, the people that are already notarized are eligible for this. But again, you need to check with your district supervisor to make sure that you're eligible to use this. But we've used it with other clients through video conferencing. You just have to make sure that you verify. In our scenarios that we've used it is we verified ID with 2 forms of ID. And then during the video conferencing itself, we watch those property owners sign the documents. And they also suggest that you record the video so that you have that for your record in case something comes up later on down the road.
All right. Did in the first question, it looks like Tony has responded in the chat. Did you guys see that about the DSNS? Oh, did we lose Jennifer? All right. Well, I'll just he's provided some more information, but I can go ahead and go to the next question here. How receptive has the public been regarding arranging meetings?
Do you want to answer that, Larry?
Yeah. When you make a phone call and talk to the different people, you'll get a variety. Some people are just fine talking over the phone, mailing them the information and handling it that way. And then you have other people that, would like to see you out on the property, showing the limits. And, sometimes, if you're client allows staking out there, that sometimes that helps with visualization of the project. So you get a variety of people, and it depends. Lots of times it depends on the age of the person. So.
All right. Next question. How was internet connection with property owner when using the KMZ file and 3D modeling?
So in the scenario where I used the KMZ file, we didn't experience any kind of difficulties. There might have been a little bit of lag when I was, scrolling through the aerial and showing them, but because it is a large file that you're using, but we didn't really have any difficulties when I was presenting that to the property owner. You may want to, I guess, explain a little bit more about the 3D modeling, Tyler.
Yeah, we've used quite a few, different methods now, or platforms, between Microsoft Teams, WebEx. I don't think we've used Zoom at all. There was one other I was trying to think of, but and I think it all really just kind of depends on what you're trying to show. With the 3D modeling, and if you're trying to show, sometimes Google Earth can be a little bit tricky, but if it's a pretty small area and you're not trying to scroll around the whole world, if you go into your meeting with the Google Earth already opened up to your location, we've found that it goes pretty smoothly on everybody's end, no matter what the internet connection is. With the 3D modeling, it still goes pretty smoothly, but if we're trying to show something very specific, we'll either go ahead and do like a screen record or a screenshot and send it that way. If they're having issues, there's ways to work around it. So it all just kind of depends on your system and the internet connection.
And you've also provided links to YouTube where you've already uploaded those videos. So
yes, yeah, that's been very handy. As soon as we kind of went home, as soon as we had to leave the office for COVID, I think the next day we created. You can create unlisted YouTube videos to where only people with the link can see them. So it's not public; it's all pretty private. And there's other ways to host videos that you can share more easily like that. So if you send a link of something you've prepared, the property owner just has to click a link and it plays on YouTube, and it's very, very straightforward. All right, we'll go to the next question. Do you anticipate slipping letting dates due to delays with the public? Is it good faith effort to delay due to owners not responding with COVID?
So Jennifer actually had a scenario on a project that we worked on with KYTC. Do you want to go over that a little bit, Jennifer?
Yeah.
It was.
I'm sorry, I'm having technical difficulties.
That's okay. So it was a property owner that we actually, we just lost her, but it was a property owner that we actually made the offer on in between Thanksgiving and Christmas. When we met with that property owner, he was very adamant that he was against the project and that he was going to get a group of neighboring property owners together and go against the project. So he was already against it. And 2 weeks after the offer meeting, we followed up with him, let him have time to cool down. Then that's when he said, I'm not in agreement with the project. I'm not in agreement with the offer. I'm going to get my own appraisal, and I'm going to submit you a counteroffer. So during that time, we allowed him enough time to get his own appraisal. We still followed up with him every couple of weeks. And then it got to a point where, we were making sure we were following good faith negotiations and allowing him enough time to come up with a counteroffer. But it got to a point where we felt like he was leading us on. So at that point, that's when we got together with the project team and decided to send him a 10-day letter, allowing him 10 additional days to come up with a counteroffer. During that 10-day letter, that's when the COVID-19 pandemic hit. So in his response during those 10 days, he responded to Jennifer and said, listen, you all are going to condemn me during this COVID-19, trying to use COVID-19 as an excuse. But we had already, kept our records, kept a log of our responses and our contacts with this owner. So we knew that COVID-19 was just an excuse that he was using to delay the project. So, during that time, we felt like we followed all the good faith guidelines, and once those 10 days were up, we proceeded on with condemnation.
All right. Looks like you got an answer from Dean Loy in the chat as well to that question. So, saying we don't let letting dates slip, guys.
Nope, not at all. No, we had the clearance date in mind with that property owner too. So, we allowed him enough time to respond with a counteroffer, and he didn't want to do that, and tried to use that COVID-19 as an excuse. And COVID-19 is an excuse. So we don't let letting dates slip.
All right. Still getting some good questions in here. Let's see here. So next question is certified mail signatures. Did you have any issues? Post office would not obtain signature for us, would just delivered and sign the card COVID-19.
I'll let you answer that, Larry.
Yeah, we had both ways. We had, they would write COVID-19 on there, but we had people that, would sign for it. We had, post office tracking, so we kind of knew where everything was. But it depended on who was delivering the mail, really. But I'd say the majority, we did get signatures back.
All right. Does the notary language on the document change when doing it virtually or online?
So again, you would have to refer to the guidelines and the policy that the Notary Association has put on this, but our understanding is, we haven't done this very often because we've still been able to meet face to face with property owners. There's been some instances where, they don't feel comfortable with us meeting in person. So we have done this kind of thing. But we haven't had to do any kind of language change. But again, we suggest that you go on there on the Notary Association page and follow those guidelines.
Okay, and I think this kind of goes along with that. The other question, so the remote notary is still wet signatures, not actually digitally signed?
Yes, so the remote notaries are still actual signatures. Now, there are some applications that allow you to do e-signatures. We haven't done that yet. But I know that is an option. But again, I would check with your district supervisor to make sure that you are able to use that tool.
All right, next question. If evictions aren't allowed now due to COVID, then how or why is KYTC allowed to continue condemnation? I'm sure the rules haven't changed, but is it the right thing to do?
Jennifer, you want to answer that?
Dean, Tony, we've not had to evict anybody, so I don't know how to answer that.
As long as you're still following the process, we have to clear right away. It doesn't matter if it's COVID-19, if it's going to be a virus in the future, you still have to follow the process. So, as long as you're following good faith negotiations and following,
you're giving them 90 days or plus to do that too. So
following the FHWA guidelines, I mean, this COVID-19 shouldn't be an excuse.
Because we don't let lettings slip, right?
That's right.
Have you noticed title reports being delayed significantly during COVID-19?
I know at the beginning of COVID-19, there was some issues with some of the courthouses being shut down, yes. But since then, I know a lot of the courthouses have opened back up. You just have to wear masks pretty much all time that you're in the courthouse. And they may limit how many people are in the courthouse too. But, since I guess once COVID-19 hit, nobody knew what to do. But since then, a lot of courthouses have implemented those guidelines that CDC has provided. So we haven't had any issues since then.
All right. Looks like Dean also responded to the previous question in the chat. We may not be able to evict, but we still go through condemnation. And when we are able to evict, we will be in place to do so.
Right.
All right. Have needs for right-of-way acquisition services throughout Kentucky become less than, say, 5 years ago due to state funding shortfalls and the reduction in numbers of projects going to lettings?
Yeah, we've definitely seen that. It's up to you all. If KYTC, once we figure out the funding situation, then hopefully we'll see an increase of projects. But I know myself or our staff, along with some other firms, have seen that for sure. And but hopefully it gets better here in the near future.
Okay, we've got one more question in the Q&A tab right now related to 3D modeling again. Is 3D modeling available to all districts as yet, particularly right-of-way? And I think it all just depends on the project or project manager or, what the funding looks like. But I mean, my answer would be yes. I would think there's some way to do it, just depending on what we discussed before.
Yeah, just the funding, and if you have the project manager that would like to see 3D modeling.
Yeah.
I know we've used it with other clients and it's been very successful. So hopefully we get to see it here in Kentucky. All right. Well, it looks like we've gone over our time. So we hope you all enjoyed our presentation, and thank you all again for watching us.